aspirational leaders, which means that they had high expectations and they had high care and high trust. Right? When you put those two together, of course, that's where you're going to get the best out of your people. They're going to be the most loyal, they'll have a bias for action, they'll be willing to go the extra mile.
Hello, and welcome to Notes on Resilience. I'm your host, Manya Chilinsky. My guest today is Rich Hua. He's the founder of the EPIQ Leadership Group and an expert in building emotionally intelligent cultures of innovation at scale. He is formerly the chief EQ evangelist and worldwide head of EPIQ leadership at Amazon. And he was even the expert advisor to the Amazon Alexa team as they were working with Alexa Plus on empathy and emotional intelligence. We had a fabulous conversation about EQ, how important it is, how to get it. I think you're really going to appreciate this conversation. Rich, I'm so glad to see you here today. Thank you for being my guest.
It is a pleasure to be here with you, Manya. I really look forward to our conversation.
To get us started, what would the title of a book be about you if your worst enemy wrote it?
I love that question. My worst enemy. They might call it Revenge of the Nerds. And that would be both an insult, but also a compliment. The insult would be, wow, what a nerdy guy. I mean, he really had very low EQ and didn't understand people and was socially awkward, had a lot of issues. But in the end, he got revenge because he actually developed the exact skills that were needed to be able to thrive and succeed. And so it'd be a little tongue in cheek, but that might be my worst enemy or my best friend who actually came up with that. Could be either one.
Oh, I love it. And I appreciate your story because I think you learned emotional intelligence, maybe because it was something you were struggling with.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, I'm a total nerd and very proud of it, actually. I grew up with very sort of much focus on the cognitive, IQ side of things. And a little bit about me, I came to America when I was 4 years old, and I came from Taiwan, and I was incredibly socially awkward. I didn't understand how to make friends. I didn't understand the culture. I didn't even speak English. And so I had a really tough time. And so for several decades, I actually really avoided everything that had to do with emotions or feelings, which of course hurt my ability to make friends and get to know people. And so I focused a lot on IQ, and I realized, I'm actually pretty smart. I'm actually a super nerd, right? I worked really hard at school. I got straight A's. I actually got a perfect score on the SAT. I got into every college I applied to, studied electrical engineering, computer science at Berkeley, and I was ready to be, live the greatest nerd's life. And then I did something that completely messed up my plan. I got married. And my wife really didn't really like that whole nerdy side. I mean, she enjoyed the knowledge part of it, but she was looking for something else, like emotional connection, empathy, vulnerability, understanding, and I didn't have those capabilities, and so I needed to learn those in my 20s and ongoing ever since then in order to have the kind of relationship I wanted to have with her. And then when I had kids, with my kids, and then ultimately with, all the people that I was really trying to connect with, work with, and support.
Right. Wow. Okay. You answered my next question, and I'm hoping you have a second answer for this very same question, which is that is clearly a moment in your life where you had to think about your life and things a little bit differently. So you've also, I'm sure, had moments where you have to think about being a leader or how to take care of other people differently from the way you were doing it. What's another moment like that for you?
Yeah, there is actually a really poignant moment. So right out of college, instead of going directly into engineering, I actually became a missionary. And so I wound up serving for several years in the Philippines and then here in the San Francisco Bay Area for another couple of decades. So my first job and career was actually working with people's deepest emotions and hopes and fears and desires and purpose. So the IQ side was grossly insufficient. I was trying to analyze and help people purely sort of cognitively. And I realized that, oh my goodness, that's like 20% of the whole thing. The other 80% was this thing called feelings and emotions and desires and pains and challenges. And so, from a career perspective, I realized that I was really lacking in this whole realm of dealing with and understanding people's emotions. And so EQ really, I use Daniel Goleman's definition, right? It's self-awareness, it's self-management, then it's empathy and social awareness, and then relationship management. And so that became a vast majority of my job in helping other people. And I also led actually a large organizations, like thousands of people all over the Pacific Northwest. And so working with all those other leaders, I realized too that, great strategy and great data and all that, hey, that's fine, but that doesn't actually motivate people. What motivates people are the things really on the emotional side that really have deeper meaning to them.
Wow. I'm so curious, as someone who was leading a large group of people and you were thinking and talking about EQ and emotional intelligence, and how does that fit into the corporate world we have today that seems to not want to talk about emotions?
Yeah. So that's I love that question because for my career trajectory, I did that for about 23 years, and then I pivoted back into the corporate tech world. Basically, over a decade ago, about 13 years ago, and so I went to Oracle, then I went to AWS, and at those places, I was actually I saw something that I'd seen really pervasively in my previous role too, which is no matter what amount of experience you have, what level of leader you have, all the way up to C-level executives. Most people indexed very heavily on IQ, but the thing holding them back was never that. It was something else. It was on the EQ realm. It was their lack of awareness. It was how people perceive them. It was not being able to influence. It was not having kind of empathy that would inspire other people. It was something on that. And to quote Marshall Goldsmith, in almost every case, what got them here won't get them there. And so maybe they were able to get to a certain level, even a C-level, sort of role with IQ, but then they were stuck, and it was EQ. And so I saw it everywhere I went, and so I started teaching people those skills. And Amazon really blew up, right? It went from me going around talking about it to literally a movement that engaged 1.5 million people, all said and done over a 7 year period. And so it was both within Amazon and also a lot of Amazon customers that I got to work with all over the world. And so what I realized is that very data driven, IQ focused, engineering type, nerdy people like myself actually all do want to be more emotionally literate and proficient. They just, one, were never taught it in school, and two, they weren't really given permission to express it. And three, they didn't understand the connection between that and their success, right? They all want to be successful. And there's a myth that, well, if I'm kind or I'm empathetic or I'm self aware, then that will actually be a detriment to my goals rather than something that actually accelerates me towards them. And so I was able to draw the line between these skills and your success and meeting your goals. And it's like, hey, winner, winner, chicken dinner, right? Like people start going, wow, let's go for it. This is awesome. So that's a lot of what I was able to do.
Okay. I imagine you didn't go from it's Monday and everybody's, perhaps struggling with their EQ. And then on Tuesday, you tell everybody about it. And on Wednesday, everybody wants to take the class. What did you say, or how did you help people understand how important this is?
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, a question that I'd often ask audiences is how many of us here would like to be more successful? I mean, everyone raises their hand. How many of us would like to be happier? Most people raise their hand. How many of us like to be healthier? Most people raise their hand. And then my response would be, I have something that can help you get there. Right. And so I always started with the goals. It wasn't like, would you like some EQ training? Would you like to be more emotionally intelligent? I mean, people like, no thanks. That sounds kind of scary, or either scary or irrelevant. And so I started with a goal. And when I met with senior leaders, especially, the $1 billion question I'd always ask is what business challenges could be solved if there were greater connection and understanding, right? Or resilience, fill in the blank, right? And so, leaders are trying to solve business problems. They're not paid to be nice people. They're not paid to make people happy. They're not, they're paid to actually solve business problems. And so when I brought it to them and I helped them realize you can solve your business problems by actually being a more empathetic, inspiring, connected leader, they're like, oh, awesome. That's great. Right. And so that was how I did it. And the really the sort of origin story to Amazon was I gave a talk at our sales kickoff back in 2020. And the reality is that people thought it was kind of a goofy topic, and the organizers weren't sure who was going to attend. So they put me in a room for 100 people. And, I'm like, hey, I'm just happy to have the opportunity because no one's ever talked about this before, right? This is like a brand new idea and topic. The day before the talk, so many people tapped on wanting to attend my session that the organizers called me up and said, we need to put you in a room for, like slightly more people. And they put me in a room for 1,000 people. And it wound up being standing room only. People turn away at the door. And at the end, I got a standing ovation for like 5 minutes. It was like a seminal moment, right? And then it wound up being the highest rated and highest attended breakout. And then the next year at Sales Kickoff 2021, the same thing happened, but with 2,000 people. And so this provided a data point. Like people are really looking for this. They appreciate it. They want more of it. And what actually happened is people started coming up to me and saying, "Can I help you? Like you have started something here. I want to join this thing." And I didn't even know what the thing was, but it was actually a movement. It was an EQ movement to help people be happier, healthier, more successful, and deliver business results. Right. And so we had dinner in Chicago in 2021 as like me and about a dozen people. And that eventually grew to a community of 70,000 people across all parts of Amazon globally. And so it was a flywheel. This community actually really created the conditions for a more emotionally intelligent leadership culture in a very large organization.
Right. Right. And once sure there was a tipping point in there somewhere where a certain number of people had it, and then it probably just exploded to more folks. That's amazing. That's a tremendous number of people to have impacted.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I feel incredibly grateful, right, that I had the chance to do that. And to your point about tipping point, I say the launch was that talk in 2020. That was the genesis. And we had this sort of theory of change that if you can get about 20% of the people in any organization to actually behave differently, that actually tips it. And more people do that. And now that has to be across all levels of leadership. It can't just be like grassroots or even the senior. It can't be all the top and all the bottom. It has to be kind of across the spectrum of roles and leadership levels. And so what we did was we created these micro and meso cultures all across the company, right? Like Amazon is a very, very strong macro culture, right? It's defined by the 16 leadership principles, and it's very, very well known. It's kind of world famous, right? Customer obsession, deliver results, earn trust, bias for action, et cetera, et cetera. So we were creating these cultures that aligned with that and supported those, but they're their own versions of it, sometimes across organizations that were tens of thousands of people. Because the leader at the very top, all the way to the people, and sort of who are newer and less tenured, all understood that behaving in a highly emotionally intelligent way would actually help the organization thrive and their colleagues be more successful. So once we got, I'd say the tipping point was probably getting a good number of VPs who were leading large organizations to say, yes, I want to sponsor this. I believe in it. This is going to actually make a difference.
Right. Absolutely. You never want to be the only one of something, the only one who's championing something in the organization, or the only one who looks a certain way in the organization, because you have to represent the whole class. And it's harder to make a change until you start bringing people on board.
Yep. Yep. That's right. Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay. So, what question about emotional intelligence do you think we're still not asking?
I think it's a similar question to what people have been not asking the whole time, which is why is this so critical to my personal and professional success and the success of everyone else around me? It's considered a nice to have rather than why is this critical? Why is this absolutely essential? to me being able to thrive as a person and as a leader, right? And so what I did was I put that before a lot of people, right? Like, consider this, look at the data, right? Understand the research and also just your own personal life. Think about what is holding you back from that there you want to get to. And again, very few people said, well, I'm not smart enough. I'm just lacking IQ. It's always something else. Right. And so when they did that, just even simple reflection, they realized, okay, there's something that we can help you with. And the other thing that went along with it, realizing that emotional intelligence is a set of skills. It is not just something you're born with. And that's one of the biggest myths, right? A lot of people think, well, you either have it or you don't. Oh, that person over there is really empathetic. I just don't have that gene. So sorry. Rather than going, no, 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 no. I mean, there is a genetic component, but the vast majority of how we behave and how we, exhibit these is in fact a skill set. And you can learn them and it will be beneficial to you and everyone else around you.
Right. And I've heard that as well. Oh, you're great at that. I'm not fill in the blank. I'm not emotionally intelligent. I'm not creative. I'm not whatever. And I always find that such a fascinating self-analysis because it's always putting themselves in a bad light. It's always, you're doing this amazing thing and I could never do that thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a limiting belief, right? And so I want to bust that myth. Now, the other thing, actually, too, in today's world specifically, that people are not asking is, how is emotional intelligence relevant to AI transformation?
Yes.
Right? Everybody and their grandmother is trying to do this thing called AI transformation, and the reality is 96% of organizations are failing at it. Right, that is based on Atlassian's recent report. They found that 4% of companies are actually experiencing some kind of transformation. 96% are not. And the biggest reason is not they're lacking technology or they don't have the right large language models, or they're using basically one type of technology versus another. It's not. It's squarely in the human realm, right? It's things like lack of earning trust. It's things like, we are not communicating in a way that allows us to actually aggregate the benefits we're individually getting out of AI and creating brand new workflows and ways that we, collaborate, right? It's not providing the space to be able to actually learn and practice and experiment, even fail, so that we can, fail at the right scale so that we can move forward together. It's all these human elements. And unfortunately, a lot of people are just, they're running the IQ playbook. Somebody at the top is like, I've got a great strategy. Everyone should just do it. I'm really smart. Just go ahead and go with the plan. And not realizing, this isn't exactly what people are feeling and thinking. And I mean, the research is just astounding, right? It's like there's a recent research from Writer. It's an AI company, and they found that almost 30% of people admitted to actively sabotaging their company's AI efforts. And I mean, no surprise why, because they think or they fear that, well, if we adopt AI, then guess what? I'm going to lose my job. So I'm not going to go along with it. In fact, I'm going to oppose it.
Right.
Uh,
And some companies have even said, we want to replace you with AI. We want to replace this process with AI, and not talked about how can we reskill you? How can we keep you and have AI improve on what you're doing? So many people talk about having AI replace humans.
yeah, yep, yeah, absolutely. Well, and that tends to make Wall Street happy and boost your stock price temporarily, but it definitely does not earn trust or that sense of long-term commitment to what you're trying to do, right? And there is an empathy gap, right? Like 76% of executives believe their employees are really enthusiastic about AI. Boston Consulting Group found the actual answer, the number is actually 31%. So three-quarters of executives think everyone's super happy, but like only one-third really are. So there's definitely a gap between what's really happening and what leaders think. And so that's all EQ, right? It's understanding.
You're listening to Notes on Resilience. I'm Manya Chilinsky, speaker and advisor. My work examines how people and systems behave under pressure and what survival and disruption reveal about leadership, culture, and change. You can learn more about my work, including speaking and leadership support, at manyachilinsky.com/services. You can also subscribe to the newsletter at manyachilinsky.com/notes for monthly insights. Now, back to the show. Wow. I'm so glad you brought up AI because that's so much on people's minds these days about the workplace and the culture of the workplace. And I get so frustrated when I hear those stories of companies talking about we're laying off people so we can have AI do it. And I keep thinking, well, AI is a tool and humans still need to be involved, and you need humans who understand it and also understand the business and are empathetic and resilient and all of those things. And I feel like some organizations are kind of sabotaging themselves by thinking AI is the answer.
There's a lot of pressure. I mean, I know a lot of people listening are senior leaders, and they have responsibilities. And the challenge is that you have these boards that are pushing the C-level executives, usually the CEO. You need to do more with AI. I read in the news that company XYZ got a 40% increase in efficiency. Why aren't you doing it? Like, where are your metrics? So they feel this immense amount of pressure. So they're pushing these initiatives down, and then everyone at every level is feeling an incredible amount of pressure and stress. And the challenge is people don't know how to manage it well because they're lacking in maybe the EQ proficiencies that will help them be more resilient and think more clearly and manage those pressures. And so they're making poor decisions, right? I mean, you're seeing all these things in the news like, oh, we used all our tokens for the whole year in 3 months. Well, because we're token maxing, everyone just use as many as you possibly can. That'll be great. I mean, when you look back, you're like, what? Who thought that was a great idea? And so you just do these things because when you're under stress and you don't know how to manage it correctly, your IQ actually drops. So there's research that's found that when you're maxed out on stress and you're not managing it well, your thinking capabilities literally decrease by 50 to 60%. And so you become dumber, right? And so the key to being able to be an epic leader, which is why I call my company EPIQ, right? It's EQ plus IQ, is you must have both if you're going to sort of think clearly and make good decisions. And so it's a tough one out
It is, and it's sometimes feels it's a little easy to talk about it and say, well, you should be doing this because of course it's important. And I appreciate that you bring up the kind of pressures people are under. And when you brought up the boards, it didn't even occur to me. Yes, that's a whole different kind of pressure coming down, and they are just trying to protect the bottom line.
there. Yeah, that's right. And so the belief that you can actually be successful in business while being an emotionally intelligent leader is what I try to help people understand. And I've seen so many incredible examples of that. I mean, you can read them in the news. I mean, obviously there are a lot of negative ones, but there are positive ones, right? And I've seen many of those at Amazon and leaders who really, in many ways, they're the ones who had the greatest success because they understood how human beings work, right? And they were inspirational leaders, which means that they had high expectations and they had high care and high trust, right? When you put those two together, of course, that's where you're going to get the best out of your people. They're going to be the most loyal. They'll have a bias for action. They'll be willing to go the extra mile. They're invested, take ownership. Without that, you just got a bunch of mercenaries who are going to jump as soon as they can, right? Right now, because of the sort of job market, a lot of people are sort of handcuffed to their companies, right? They're like, it's a bad job market, so I'm going to stay. But like, they're staying not because they want to, because they have to. And as soon as things shift, guess what? They're all gone, man. I mean, we're just kind of waiting for that to happen. And so long term, leaders who understand the emotional side build obviously longer lasting companies that can really succeed.
Right, right. Absolutely. Rich, this has just been such a fabulous conversation. Thank you for sharing so much. We're getting close to the end of our time. Want to throw out the final question, which is what question did I not ask you that you want to answer? You want the listeners of this episode to know.
I think the fundamental one is that in this world we live in, we do need to continuously grow and improve and learn. I mean, learn to use AI, become really proficient at all that. I mean, but that's table stakes. Like it's becoming more and more commoditized. It's like saying I know how to use Microsoft Office, like, or I know how to use the internet. Like, what? Okay, that's great. I mean, yeah, so does everyone else, right? I mean, that's what's happening with AI. I know how to use AI. I use, blah blah blah. What's going to be what always really has been, but what is becoming even more differentiated is these human skills. It's things like adaptability and resilience and empathy and influence and inspiration. So take the time to work on those things because it really does matter, right? And they will be the competitive advantage or the differentiator in this world where everything that can be automated, is getting automated. And so I guess that the two pieces of advice I just give in terms of that is, read good books and be around good people. Those are the two things that will influence you the most. And so, Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence, Mark Brackett's, dealing with feeling, and Travis Bradberry's Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I mean, those are kind of like the three foundational books I recommend. Read at least one of those books
Yes.
and then find people who can help you, right, grow in these things. And that can be, accountability partners or just, EQ buddies. It can really make a big difference. So that's what I'd say.
Well, thank you. And now, before I let you go, please share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and your work and how they can reach you if they want to learn more.
Yeah. So I'm the CEO and founder of the EPIQ Leadership Group. And as I mentioned a little earlier, it's spelled EPIQ, and it stands for EQ plus IQ. And is based on this idea that you must have both harmonized together expertly if you want to succeed and thrive as a leader in today's age. It's not one or the other. You must have both. And so what I do is I help leaders in organizations develop the capabilities to be able to be epic leaders and epic professionals. So I do that through keynotes and workshops and consulting and advising. So my expertise is really building epic leadership cultures, right? Not just you developing skills on your own. So I've done this across Amazon and across thousands of other organizations that I've had a chance to work with in that role. So you can contact me, at on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me. And you can also email me directly at rich@richardhua.co. So I'd be happy to hear from people who want to learn more about epic leadership and how that can help them thrive and succeed.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I will put links to those in the show notes to make it easier for folks to get in touch with you. And Rich, thank you so much. I have so enjoyed our conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Manya, for this opportunity. And I hope it really does make a positive difference for people.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners for checking out this episode of Notes on Resilience. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening to Notes on Resilience. I'm Manya Chilinsky, a speaker and advisor. My work focuses on how leaders support people through pressure and disruption. The show is edited by Neil Panji, and it's hosted on Buzzsprout. Subscribe to the podcast to stay connected and sign up for the newsletter at manyachilinsky.com/notes for monthly insights and updates.